Do
Yeah, for Zoom, I just save
yeah,
everything on the cloud because
yeah.
it's a lot of big files and yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for another episode of Crown and Chakra. Today, I want to welcome a very beautiful guest who is also a dear friend of mine, Dr. Susheela Devi Prem. And her background is on her PhD in psychology, Strozzi leadership training, ancient meditation practices. She'd also studied five rhythm movement meditation and expressive arts. She worked in the corporate world in accounting and her own marketing company in Germany. She also taught meditative approaches to her employees and at conferences, followed by almost 2 decades of teaching yoga, meditation, and dance internationally. She currently resides in the west coast of the US, and today she is going to share her practice with us. And while she is emanating her purity and essence through her presence, welcome, Susheela. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mariya. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to share with you and your audience.
Yes, thank you for gracing us with your presence here. So, first thing, there's a lot of things that are happening on the planet, as we all know. Um, and you have such a very wide array of skill sets and tools to share with a lot of people. So, perhaps we could start with how does some of these mindfulness practices help in these times, because it's just very easy for a lot of people to gravitate towards their phone or their devices and get sucked in a dopamine vortex. So, how would someone um, kind of realize with their real eyes how to get out of that um, vortex of dopamine, social media, and like distraction galore? That place right there. So, how would somebody kind of navigate their way through getting in that still space within themselves when it's pretty easy to just go in that direction?
Yeah, thanks you for your question because we are in very tumult, distracting times that many people deal with depression and loneliness. And one of a very wonderful practice that I like to share is gratitude. So with my clients and my coaching practice and light healing and those peer coaching other practitioners that then uplift other people, gratitude is a wonderful way to come into the heart, um, because we want to open our heart, we want to reside in our heart, but then how do we get there? So gratitude is just a very essential practice, and research has shown that gratitude leads to more well-being. There's been lots of research, mostly in positive psychology. I started out in the UK. And practicing gratitude, you can just go with journaling of just very simply making a list. What are you grateful for today? And what I found even more powerful from there to really generate gratitude, just generating a feeling, like a state of being, what you are grateful for. And it can be as simple as like looking at your groceries and going, wow, I've got these wonderful groceries. I'm really grateful to the planet, to the earth they've been going in. I'm grateful that I have food to eat. I'm grateful for the people that were involved in the food growing process. As simple as that. And then really feeling gratitude in your heart, of actually generating gratitude. And that helps to really come into the heart. Another way of getting into the heart is just doing something you really love. I mean, I love to be of service, and I think that's the step up of coming into your heart when you can make someone else joyful. But just doing something like a hobby that you have, like creative expression, can be pottery or painting, or being in nature, taking a walk. Or as I said, like making other people happy can be as simple like making a compliment. So that also generates a positive feeling and really brings us back in our heart, away from any distractions and social media, and especially politics and news and all of that, of what brings us joy, like joy and gratitude.
Okay. Thank you for that beautiful explanation. And you mentioned something in there that kind of touched a little bit about making art or movement practices or some of these things that for some people they have more interaction within their home life now. How would somebody build their own practice to set the time aside for it? And I know there's people that are listening to this podcast that already have their own practices, but for those that have all of a sudden like are have kids, or they have like a parent that they now all of a sudden have to like take care of, um, uh, or even if they're just finding ways on how to build their own time set aside for that, how would they go about it initially, and then how do you maintain that after a certain period of time for those that already have a practice?
I guess the big part is stepping out of the mindset, I have to set time aside for that. It needs to be separate from other people, it needs to be separate from other things. I have a good friend, she has 3 kids, and she started playing Japanese flute. So she's basically convincing her children whenever they want to spend time with her that she needs to bring her flute with her into their kids' room. So she's playing flute while the children are playing. So it has this dual effect of it does something for her, she gets to do something she enjoys. The flute has a calming effect on the children. And so it's a give and take at the same time. Coming back to gratitude, like generating the feeling of gratitude, is something you can do in any moment of time. So you can look at your husband and just go like, oh, I'm grateful he's in my life. Or to remember a moment that was most beautiful in your marriage. Or look at how your children are smiling and just be grateful for the smile in the moment. So even if there's an upset moment, I mean, you still love your children. Love just doesn't go away. So love is there. So you remember the love underneath even the difficult situation in the moment of everyone being in the house. So coming back to that love, coming back to what you are grateful for in each moment in daily life is a practice in itself. It's really taking the meditation practice into life, into action.
Mm-hmm. That's so key, because before we would go somewhere else in another meditation space and then come back home and then have our own practices there. But then now it's all just the same place in the same space, which really is, as you mentioned it earlier, really is a meditation in action. I learned this beautiful practice many years ago in the Kashmiri Shaivism practice, and it's with open-eyed meditation. And the concept of that is to be in meditation 24/7, which is basically when you have your eyes closed, your eyes are open. When you're walking, you're cooking, you're pretty much doing the things that you normally would do. You don't really get the awareness and uh, bop out of it or something. It doesn't work that way. And just bringing the awareness back to the present moment in the here and now is the most important practice that we can all do at this time. So thank you for sharing that beautiful practice. And maybe you could just share a little bit about how you decided to study psychology, and your background was in corporate finance, I believe. And yeah, why leave that environment and then pursue this path to self-actualization and knowledge of self, and really deeply and get to know yourself in this way of being, rather than that path. And I know there are lots of people that are pursuing their dharma in that way, and it's very beautiful to watch them unfold in that way and serve the community, and they're very passionate about it. But I'm just curious, the art of transformation in doing some of these things to know the self more. Maybe you could just share a little bit more about.
Yeah, I guess it's been the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
I had a near-death experience when I was 2. I drowned. And so for me, it was always like coming back to the beauty of light and how can I bring that here while I'm here? Because I was clearly sent back that I had to be here. So I knew I wasn't allowed yet to really leave my body, but I also knew there was this beauty of light. And to me, self-realization, light body, that ultimate goal is being aware of that light that's beyond the body while we are in the body. So throughout my childhood, when I would dance, that was my remembrance into remembering that light and remembering the devotion that I had in there. And so I've kind of kept that throughout my life of just keeping moments of that connection. And I started yoga when I was 14 and had these amazing moments of silence and started journaling about who am I and really questioning that. And then studying business and economy was really more about being down to earth and being practical, of having a good foundation for making a living. And I think that's really essential for anyone who's on the spiritual path, that the spiritual path is not there to get away from life. It's really to be more here and to be more of service. And so we can still be practical and down to earth and really do what needs to get done. And accounting is something very down to earth and practical because it needs to get done. And I do my own accounting now for my own business, so it's a good base. And at the same time, we can keep the connection to the light through the heart center, through being in unconditional love. And then in my late 20s, I was called to India. I lived with a Swami in a Gurukulam setting, a very traditional ashram setting, and studied Eastern psychology and the philosophies and Sanskrit. So I received a very in-depth training of being in meditation in action 24/7. And that was, I got 3 hours of sleep during those days. So it was pretty intense. So it was an in-depth training to go beyond the mind, to go beyond the ego, to go beyond what do I want and what's really needed now, and coming back to that mindfulness practice. So now I'm trying to really focus on bringing it all together, to be really grounded, to be practical, what needs to get done, while keeping my awareness, keeping my mind focused in the heart, so to say. So it's a one-pointed practice. We generally start out with focusing on the breath. So, but then devotion, the whole path of bhakti, is all about being in the heart. So I'm making it a one-pointed practice of being in my heart center. And again, gratitude, I use gratitude in my dissertation research. It's just a beautiful way to land in the heart. It really helps people to generate resilience. And the more awake people were on that ladder of consciousness, the more gratitude they naturally had, like as a base in their life.
Beautiful. I think the gratitude journals help a lot with that, or like a morning gratitude practice, or even morning pages could actually help with just getting some of the stuff in the mind out, and then doing the gratitude practice right after that. Even at nighttime too, I like to do like a day day review of like what are some of the most beautiful things that happened for the day that I'm grateful for. So I think that's also a very good practice to have. For people that don't know what 5 rhythms is, could you explain what a 5 rhythms movement meditation is, and what exactly is that, and why practice movement practices at this time?
Okay. I actually would like to skip that because I left the organization a few years ago.
Okay.
I think movement, meditation, or conscious movement and dance is really essential. And any organization you study with or you do workshops with, and there are several that came out of that 5 Rhythms organization by Gabrielle's originally, teachers that she trained have started their own organizations and conscious dance practices at this point. So there is Azul, there's Soul Motion, There's movement medicine. There are a few more out there. And so it's really, I find it really essential. If you do a dance practice, you can turn on music at home, but going into these workshops and group practices is way more powerful, because you get to face yourself and you get to be supported. So I really do support any type of, like a meditation retreat, it's a movement retreat, because you go much, much deeper than just like going to an ecstatic dance where people tend to get high, which is beautiful too, but it's very, very different focus than going into the nitty gritty inner work. And I see emotional purification as very essential, as that's really the other side of the coin of meditation. You want to be mindful and have your mind still, but you can only get there if you actually do the emotional purification. If you never look at your emotions and what's coming up, you never get your mind still. You only suppress that. So it's so essential that the other side of the coin, you actually take the time to do that inner psychological work, because it is really needed. We have to take time for that, or maybe even do therapy, because it is like dealing with the nitty-gritty stuff, dealing with things that happened in the past that haven't been digested, haven't been integrated, haven't been resolved. And resolving those is essential, because it creates energy knots in our energy system. And so life force energy can flow freely until those knots are really resolved. So a conscious movement practice is wonderful with that, because you bring the mind and the body together and you get energies to flow much more easily. I think just sitting would do that too. I think it takes more time if you only sit. I love to combine it. Movement and sitting. Yoga practice is similarly very useful. I developed something that I call 7 Seeds. It's a human development model that's really more of a basic theoretic model of evolution of seed 1 being in the body, seed 2 dealing with the mind and with the psychology, seed 3 being in your center, being in that like center alignment, basically like a mindful walking meditation where you would just focus on your breath. Seed 4 is being fully in your heart center, in connection with yourself, connection with others. Seed 5 is being in touch with your soul. So to listen to that soul whisper, allowing your soul to come through your voice. And then seed 6 is being in touch with the energy field, your auric field, the synchronistic field between each other. And then seed 7 is really that self-realization of experiencing the void. And that's coming back to being practical. Being in the body or being in transcendence, experiencing the void, is not necessarily an opposite end. So if you just do sitting meditation, you might experience the void, but then the moment we get up, it's gone. So being in meditation and bringing it together, and the current situation of being stuck at home is a wonderful practice that we are thrown into. How can we being meditation at all times, so we can actually bring our mind back to mindfulness, ideally even into maybe states of transcendence, while moving the body, while being active, while even talking to people. And so with the 7 Seeds model that I've developed, I try to bring people into an in-between state where they can sit in meditation, come into the beautiful stillness, and then go and walk again or move again. So there's movement in the body, trying to keep the stillness. And then the moment you lose it, you go back into the meditation to bring it back up. So like, can I come back to the stillness, go back into movement? Maybe even then use gibberish using voice. So without content yet. So can I stay and keep my meditation practice, so to say, while I'm active, without being in the mind yet with content? That's one beautiful approach I use. Another one is creative expression, using art to deal with your psychology, of like using dreams, bringing them to paper. What's the message of the dream? What are unresolved issues that might want to come into a painting? Then looking at it again, maybe even dancing the painting, seeing the messages in that. I like to use poetry, of bringing voice to oneself. So just using different creative tools of unveiling the subconscious, bringing it more to the surface, dealing with it, integrating it, and then really integrating being in the body, being in the heart, and being in transcendence at all times.
I sat in one of your classes a while ago. I think it was a few months ago, and I found it to be really helpful with really integrating the things that are coming up in my subconscious, and then working through that with the psychology behind it, and also getting to know myself of like, that's part of it. That's part of my journey. That's part of my healing. That's part of me learning more about myself and why that's coming up in my subconscious realm, and also looking at it and in a visual form through my art. And so I thought that was such a beautiful practice because it helped me integrate more about what my experiences are and my learnings, and then also get me back in touch with the center of myself and my body. And I found that it was such a beautiful practice. The seven seeds, I'm sure when I did that practice is probably just like the tip of the iceberg of what people can experience with this practice, because you have really developed such a beautiful and intricate way of creating this sacred space for the person, as I have experienced it in the class. You know, there's like other people in the class too, but it was also such a beautiful thing. um, which is, you know, a lot, there are lots of coaches out there, lots of people in the planet that just want to move it around, and like, you know, like when we experience something that is profound, especially in the last few months, and news stories, election, and all these other things, like just being bombarded by a lot of these informations, how do we digest, and then also not vilify it or try to push it away or resist it, but also just have the knowledge of how to have the tools necessary to um, learn more about the subconscious aspects of our psyche, our both of our individual and collective experiences in this time space continuum. You know, I guess that's like one phrase to say it, but it's also a good way to know about how to move forward in each person's journey. So thank you for sharing that. I believe that this is going to have such like a huge impact on positive impact on lots of people. And I guess one question with that being said, you know, um, a lot of people are at home, and there's there might be feelings of having to deal with like the holidays and things that are coming up for each person, with like relationships, relating with other people, how to connect, how to relate with other people, or maybe they don't want to, maybe they just want to be hermetic at this time, and look at themselves more. But then there is the resonance of our connection with community, because we can't do it alone. You know, if you just stay at home for like months at a time, that may not be very healthy. So it's good to like stay connected with um, community and with friends and family and people. So for those that have like a hermetic quality about, you know, like the about wanting to stay in that space only, but then not wanting to go beyond it, how would you um, perhaps share some strategies or some tools on how to encourage some people to reach out and connect with friends and family in the community, or just in general, just be in that space of centeredness, but while still staying connected with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like you who is listening, if you're a person who just really enjoys being hermetic and you are in bliss being alone, go for it, enjoy. I really trust that if you're meditating and you're enjoy and blissful, that is rippling out into the environment and other people will pick up on it. But I guess most people tend to go into that space being hermetic, but then it's kind of an inner struggle. It's like they want to be alone, but they really don't. And that's where it gets tricky. And I guess that's the people you're actually, that's the question is for. And that's where it's really essential if there's not enough intimacy in life. I find the easiest way is if I need like people to connect with me, reach out yourself. So, and it can be just like on a text or even social media of like, I would do personal messaging. Because it's really personal of really reaching out and just say, hey, how are you doing? Checking in. And I think especially since the spring, it's so essential to reach out to people and check in with them. Like, are you healthy? Do you still have a job? Do you need anything? So do you want to have a quick chat? So, and it can be just be a text chat, it can be a phone call, but I made it an effort really since the spring to reach out to everyone I know internationally, even people that I haven't talked to in years that I tend to meet every few years on an event, to actually reach out to them and go like, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? To just consciously connect and check in with people. And then a conversation might start. But that also means if you're reaching out, checking in with them, they're also checking in with you. So there's already there's a two-way thing happening here. And so it's at the end, it's profiting both people because you're reaching out, checking in, and then they're asking, okay, thanks for checking in. How are you doing? So there's an energetic, like two-way, something is happening. And it's also, I mean, if we feed an orphan child, it makes us happy, you know? So if we reach out to someone and they need help and they might need a word, and we get to listen, I mean, it's also, we receive something from it because they are grateful. And so it's just like beautiful to be in your heart and be compassionate and be there for someone. I mean, I think there's so much grace and blessing in it if we are supportive in just listening to someone else, or if we might donate something. I mean, there's so much grace flowing if we can reach out. And again, if you feel alone and you're reaching out, you're already reaching out, and there's a two-way energetics happening. And that's what's really essential of creating that intimacy in the sense of just having personal connection. I mean, not sexual, but just having personal connection, which we tend to get if we just go to an event that are not happening right now. So we need to reach out one-on-one. And I think there's a beauty in this reaching out one-on-one because it's very personal. So we can actually get way more out of it because it is personal. We are not just going to a concert and then we are one of the many people in the crowd and there's this like the sense of not being alone. But if you actually have a conversation, it's really a two-way pathway there. And I think it's really nurturing. I mean, really intimacy in the way of like, what is nurturing for you, of having real connection, a real checking in, real caring for someone else. And that's even more important, I think, for the older generation, because they might not know how to do that. They aren't really on social media or texting. I mean, my mom doesn't even know how to use a cell phone. So it's so much more important to pick up an actual phone and call these people and have a conversation so they don't feel alone, and check in if they need something. And often it just helps that they're being listened to. And I know with parents, my parents always just want to know that I'm fine and healthy. So just telling them every week, ever again, like, I'm happy, I'm healthy, is so supportive to them. So just doing that, of like telling your relatives, like, I'm doing fine, I'm okay, just kind of eases the whole situation for them. So it's just really important to reach out to people. And then, I mean, things have shifted to Zoom, and most of us now are technologically enough to go into these group spaces where we can connect. And that's where we need to just upgrade ourselves of really connecting. I know many people are getting distracted with all the tiny pictures on there, but it's like, can I really connect to the other person? It's like, can I drop into my heart and really care about the other people that are on that Zoom call? Because that shifts the whole energy. If I'm just there kind of listening and dangling around and maybe making dinner next to it or texting, I'm not really there and I'm not present. Because if I'm meeting with someone in person, I also want to be present. And maybe nowadays people even text when they're meeting in person. But it's coming back to that, can I really be present? Can I be mindful while I'm with someone? And that also counts for Zoom groups. Like, can I be really present, really grounded? Can I really listen and pay attention to the other person that's speaking? Can I like really paying attention? I guess that's more of a Gaia approach, like paying attention, being there. And I guess the female wording is more being present, being in your heart. But is that's being present with the other, paying attention to what the other person is saying. And that's a huge gift. So, and if then on top of that, we can, as my teacher Paul Richards says, give positive messages, because that's again is nurturing. It's creating that personal connection, intimacy on a heart level, giving a positive message to someone else, because that's what our emotional bodies really need, and it's really, really essential. And to upgrade that for those people that are very centered, if we do our own inner work, we actually help the collective. So sometimes we read something in the news and it's really like, if it's just something that's there, we can just maybe shake it off and really literally shake our bodies. But if it's touching a personal topic, we need to look at the personal topic. But once we resolve the personal topic of like what you talked about earlier, of doing that inner emotional work, once we do that inner emotional work ourselves, it ripples back into the collective and it helps everyone. So it's not just personal, because like we have similar topics. So if we do our own inner work, it helps other people because we uplift the field. And then the Buddhists, they actually do a meditation of breathing in the pain of the world, breathing out love. So again, if you listen to news that are upsetting, you can just kind of take a deep breath and then center back in your heart, center back into love. And you can, as a tool, one that I like to use is focus on rainbow colors, for example, or the violet flame, and breathe that out into the collective, to the news that you've been listened to. And then with that, first you shift your own energy of just coming back to your own heart, and then you bring that light and you send that back out into the collective. And it's like a prayer. The prayers have like huge effects.
Yes, they really do. And I love that you mentioned that practice with the breathing meditation and the sending it out to the collective, into the planet with the exhale, and the violet flame practice. It's very helpful, especially when you're out and about, and you sense some activation in your body after experiencing you know somebody cuts you off at like while you're driving to the grocery store, or like coming back, or whatever that might be. These are really effective and good practices to have on the daily. um, let's see, if there is one thing that you can share, and I ask this with every guest at the podcast, on if there is one wisdom that you can share to the listeners that are listening to this, what would that be?
Being in your heart. And that's really, really essential. Can you stay in compassion? And if you are on the call and you feel like you are struggling, go out and get help. Like, see a therapist, get coaching, join a group. I'm offering coaching sessions. There are plenty of wonderful people out there that offer it on video call. So it's really essential to get help and be supported. But if you are centered enough, I really encourage everyone who feels centered and grounded enough, take your gifts and share them, because now is the time. This is really the time to upgrade yourself and step up and share your gifts, because now they're needed, because there are other people that are struggling.
I totally agree. And we also have our life upgrade course, which is an 8-week course. It's called Shine Bright Clearly. Our cohort is closed for now. It's ongoing. We're like in the middle of that, in the middle of winter, but it's going to start back up again in January of 2021. So for those that are interested in joining the Shine Bright Clearly course to share your dreams into reality and then launch it online, these are very practical steps. So aside from what Dr. Susheela is teaching and the coaching that she is doing, this is also another option for you, very like practical things that you can do for 8 weeks. And then if that's not enough, then you can, get some coaching from her.
I get additional coaching of how to bring that out into the world.
Right.
Like some supervision.
Yes, and it's really yeah, it's been really an amazing journey, and we have some students that have launched their own businesses, and I'm really proud of our there's some that even launched their own podcast, so I'm just like really proud of seeing the work that each person has put in for themselves to really embody their own light and bring that out into the collective and bring that out into the planet, and then raise the vibration and raise the frequency and raise the consciousness of our planet and our awareness into bringing more awareness into your life, yourself, and business, and whatever aspect of your life that you want to upgrade on. I guess maybe it's already upgrade, I don't know, so it's all an individual journey. So, and thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and yeah, the tools that you've just shared on our podcast today, and the practice of gratitude, um, the breathing practices, the embodiment. These are just just a drop in the ocean of Susheela's knowledge of what she can share with you. And so working with her one-on-one would definitely be a great benefit. So if anyone's interested in that, how could they get in touch with you on your offerings?
So you can just directly contact me either through email or go through my website. So my organization is CFIT, it's Center for Integrating Transcendence. So it's C and then FIT. And the URL is live, LIVEC, letter C, fit.com. Or you can email me at inquiry@cfit.com. And I also offer weekly group coaching. So you can join the courses on Tuesdays and Fridays. I also offer yoga and a dream group, as well as a 7 Seeds group. So you can learn some additional tools, join the Q&A and share your experience, and be supported in that too. Or as Mariya just said, take the chance of one-on-one sessions.
Yes, absolutely. And did you say dream group?
Yes, so how it's because I've been going to these conferences with the International Association of Dream Study, like how to integrate dreams and how to get the messages out of dreams. So I decided what I used to teach at conferences, because I got canceled this year, to shift it now into a Zoom study, dream study group, where you can bring your dream, and then we use creative expression, use art, use poetry, use movement to get the messages from the dream. So I'm not interpreting anyone's dreams. Like, the dreamer is like the main expert in the dream, but just bring it out into another medium besides writing, of just getting the essence of the dream, the significant parts and points of the dream, and bringing that out into a third eye view. And then you can step back and look at it again, and then maybe kind of move the energy around a bit and see how the dream or the painting of the dream changes. Is very, very powerful for receiving the messages from your dream.
That would be a very helpful and very useful group for a lot of people right now, especially when we're all staying at home. And I would imagine that there's a lot of people taking naps at this time and out of their day, or just having more vivid dreams. I've heard it from some of my own coaching clients as well. So I'm sure this would be a very intriguing group to explore for lots of people that are listening to this podcast at this time. So, is there anything that else that you would like to share with our audience that's listening to or watching this podcast? Or
just stay tuned, because I'm in the final proofread of a book on 7 Seeds that's focused on coaching, and it really shares the original journey that I've gone through with it, linking it to Eastern psychology, specifically Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, of really breaking it down to like, where comes devotion in, where comes practice in. And it's specifically written for holistic practitioners who really want to add some tools into what they are offering, but anyone else who's reading through it, who's done some practice, can also get some tools out of it. But my intention is really to upgrade other practitioners with more tools.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Susheela. And I hope that people that are listening to this podcast would get to check out your website, and we'll have all the links in the podcast notes. If you have any questions, feel free to send her an email directly. And yeah, thank you so much. Much gratitude for having you share your knowledge and your wisdom at our podcast here at Crown and Chakra. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mariya, for holding this beautiful podcast. You're a gift to the world.
Yes, thank you.